Hello, everybody. Welcome to our segment, our Meet the Changemakers. And today we are in conversation with the founders of the Project Planet A. So, welcome, Autumn. Welcome, Andrew. Welcome, Conor. It's nice to have you with us and nice to have you on Team Talk. So, before we start talking about your organization, I really want to know um, why you support uh, climate change and any kind of pro planet advocacy. Anybody can go ahead on that.
Yeah, and thank you for having us. So, I mean, just as a youth, climate change is a really important topic. It can define our whole future. And so, obviously, that's the main reason that's going to be defining our actions in the effort to stop climate change and implement climate change mitigation and adaptations. But we're starting to see the effects of climate change more and more, and we don't experience it as in where we live in California. We don't experience it as much as other people may, um, but we are a coastal community, so in the future sometime that may be a risk. But also wildfires, we can tell, are definitely becoming more prominent and around us. So that's one of the main things. But as just an individual, there isn't a specific reason personally why I got involved in this. It's just an issue that I see as like so big and that really needs to have an international effort to tackle it, and every person should take part in it.
Yeah, absolutely. And since you guys are from California, I think in pictures we have seen the darkest side of natural disasters in 2020. It was those worst pictures that we could ever see with all the smoke and everything. It was scary. So, from what I've seen and from what I personally also believe in, that climate change has been for too long only a youth-led initiative in the rest of the world as well, not just the US. Not a lot of adults feel this is important, and even if they feel it is important, it's a very it's a fraction of the society. So why do you think this cause does not get enough support from the elders in the society and people who are in places of political positions as well?
I can answer that actually. I think part of the reason is because they're an older generation, it's honestly not their problem. They're not going to end up dealing with the side effects of and the consequences of global warming because they get to just kind of be like your problem and hand it off to our hands as they're the generation moving out of government and putting us in charge. So really, it's our generation's fault, or not fault, but charge really to make the difference. Because I mean, if you really think about it, global warming has only gotten worse for the last generation, and that's our parents' generation, which is handing it off to us. So not only is it our problem in a sense, but also we are asking them to make enormous changes within their lifestyle that they've been doing for 40, 50 years, which is really hard to do.
Yeah, we went over this in another interview as well. People fear change, and um, certain changes are slow, certain changes are fast, and asking them to change their practices, their beliefs so quickly becomes a problem. So let's talk about how your organization really started and how things kicked off.
Yeah, so I mean, this started like, I mean, I had been wanting to start just a simple environmental club at my school for a while. And eventually, like after the lockdown was in place for the pandemic, I started like looking into it more because I had the time. And at first, it was just an environmental club, and then I was talking to Conor about it for a while, and then Autumn came on to the team for the environmental club. And at that point, still, we were just thinking it'd be an environmental club. But eventually it turned into an organization. I'm really not sure how it did, but eventually I just decided, well, I can do so much more with this. I don't need to be limited. And personally, when I was what was going through my mind, I'm very involved in Key Club, the service organization, and the community there internationally and nationally, and like in the community is so prominent, and it's like a friendship, and there's just Key Clubs at like every school around me, at least I know of. And that's kind of just the goal I had envisioned in my head. And I didn't know of any other environmental organizations that really had that. Most are just region based, and having them, we focus a lot on our chapters, and having them in like schools and communities really allows people to be more focused and have more people be involved, and also get that international collaboration. So that's kind of where the mindset of it came into play. And then we officially launched in early August, and our other two directors aren't here, but we have two more directors who we started this with. And then the team really just grew from there, like a lot. We kept growing and growing, and we started more with education based, and now we're working our way more to projects and like conferences, and now more connecting with our chapters.
Yeah, part of the reason I feel your organization has received so much support is because everybody feels about the environment very strongly. They just don't get the right opportunity, they just don't get the right medium to meet people who are like-minded. And I think that's where you guys come in. And yeah, so let's talk about the impact you've had so far. You spoke about chapters, so tell me about how many chapters you have and how much you have been able to achieve since the August of last year.
Yeah, so for our chapters in that sense, it really immediately when we released them, we immediately became international. There was a chapter in Hong Kong like almost immediately, and so that was really exciting. And then from there it only grew, and it's grown a lot, and we've done a lot of outreach for that too, and it's amazing. We have 14 chapters right now, which I think is pretty good for how like our audience that we have at the moment. We're still figuring out a lot of logistical stuff. And so for growing that much in like maybe half a year, I think that's pretty great.
Yeah.
And we do have 2 international chapters and a lot of chapters all across the United States, and we're looking to grow more and more in that sense. And we really, on the chapters, we focus on like communication and collaboration. So at the moment, we're really trying to build that up so that we do have those benefits and can connect people around the nation and the globe. And so that's been improving a lot too, like the chapter relations. But I don't know if Connor, do you want to talk about more project side of it? Oh, wait, it looks like he might be frozen. Well, okay, sorry then. Connor, do you want to talk more project side of like what we've achieved in that sense?
Yeah, so like Andrew said, we started more education based, and now we're starting to, well, from the beginning we always thought about doing projects, and now we're starting to actually implement them. So we've been coming out with resources because, like you said, people realize that climate change is a problem and they want to do something about it, but sometimes they just need like that little spark to get them involved, and we hope the resources and the project resources we have can help ignite that fuse to get them involved more. Yeah, so we've made some project resources, and we've also done some just conferences around our Orange County, the county we live in. And we've also done a conference through Listen Speak Act, another organization to it was about how to become a climate activist. Yeah, and that was through Listen Speak Act. And then I think that's all.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty significant in the amount of time you guys have spent working on this organization. So you said you spoke about having international chapters in Hong Kong and another country. So how did you actually like find out that you could have a chapter there? Did people reach out to you, or did you have like friends living in other countries who like, contacted you or something?
No, so we actually just had someone reach out immediately, and they were really interested for the Hong Kong one. And actually now with that one, we're really involved with the person who leads that. We have like an international conference planned with them, and also people from Uganda and India. So that's one of our biggest projects at the moment. But also the other one is in Colombia, and that one we did a lot of outreach, personally reaching out to people to see if they were interested. And I think that was one of those cases. It is, there's definitely some barriers in international chapters, but we've really tried to overcome those and made a lot of progress in that sense. And so it has been a success with those two chapters. They're still building up, and we're still trying to provide those connections and resources so that they are more successful. But yeah.
Yeah, it's great how you have this international presence and international collaboration going on. So speaking of international collaboration, we had the pandemic, and how do you attribute the effects of the pandemic with climate change? Do you think it has exacerbated the problem, or in some ways it was required? Because like we had cars just not being used at all for about 8 months or so, and a lot of public transport was just hanging around there.
Yeah, so personally, I'm actually doing a research project on that connection, specifically on connection to greenhouse gases. And all my research has shown that there have been a significant decrease in greenhouse gases due to the pandemic. And like pollution, some cities have had clearer skies than ever. So there were definitely a lot of great things that happened from this. But in my research, I actually did notice that this type of thing, this decrease in greenhouse gases, has happened before in previous economic crises. I can't remember the specific ones, but like the Great Recession was the most recent. But then this greenhouse gases spiked right after. So obviously it's a great benefit, but we do have to learn how to sustain that. And that's a lot of what pulls into climate change, like making it all these benefits. We see all these different technologies and different things that could happen. We just have to make them happen.
Good point that you brought up, that we have seen we don't have to do these activities that we did on a daily basis to just be happy in our lives. There are alternatives. Things can be done sitting at home. And I think, if I'm not wrong, there are companies like Google and Microsoft who are planning to go remote completely and not have their brick and mortar offices anymore. So that's a step in a right direction. But then at the same time, I also feel that after this gets over, there might be a significant rebound where people just go crazy and they just start doing everything that they're not supposed to, and those kinds of things. Yeah, and let's talk about within the US. Do you see potential practices that people in the US do are something which not people in other countries do? Like, I want to say that is US kind of leading the world in practices that we shouldn't be doing? So if anybody can comment on that.
I think there's definitely a lot of things that fall into this. It's hard to kind of narrow down, say like one country is a specific example of something, because there's so many different types of lifestyles in countries. But I would say, I know the United States is one of the most populous, and we do have some cities are really packed and transportation is huge. People rely on cars. I think as a developed nation, we're leading in that sense. We're kind of saying this is what developed nations should be like, but in the future, we don't want to be evolving into, we want to be evolving more to be sustainably. And we do have to lead in that sense as a larger country.
Yeah.
But it's hard to say personally, like specific things that I can think of.
I mean, it might not be specifics for you people, but since I moved into the US pretty recently, about 2 to 3 years ago, I saw practices which were culturally very different. The amount of plastic usage in the US, that's very significant compared to the country I belong to. We don't have as much plastic usage going on over there. And then even in terms of transportation, you pointed out there, people rely on cars. High school kids have cars here, and they commute to high school with cars. That's not something I had back in India, but it's nice to see there's awareness and there are people working towards it. The problem is it's good that you identify the problem and then you're working to solve it. So now that we have spoken about the entire organization part of it, let's talk about what your future goals are towards the organization, and then we'll have last question and then we end it. Anybody can come in.
I think we just, because climate change is such a huge issue and it's for our generation, we just hope to get more chapters, but more importantly, just spread the word to people and engage more people around the world and around the country to get involved, to have a strong community that will work together to come up with solutions and work together to combat climate change and other environmental issues.
That's nice. So this is the last question for the three of you, and I want to know from each of you. Let's start with Autumn. Tell me about the most notable memory you have had while working with Project Planet A. Or you can take time. If Andrew wants to come in, he can. We can go back to her.
I'll let Autumn think about it, and then so that's the favorite moment or biggest moment. That's really hard because it's been pretty long journey. It's really, there's not a specific moment, it's more a specific aspect, just like the growth of it is exciting to see, when we get more chapters, when we get new people on our team, when we grow our followers, or we see more people using our resources or blogs or all our educational stuff. But I do think that there's certain parts that are pretty more exciting, like clicking that first post to just officially launching our organization was pretty cool.
Yeah, even when I launched a Teen Talk, it was early last year, it was January of 2020. And when I look back into the work that has happened, I feel really happy and I feel proud that we could bring up something. And let's read out what Autumn says. She says, I think the most memorable moment for me would be having out in all this work and then have gone international within our first month. It was just insane. Yeah, absolutely. Just being international just gives you the confidence that there are so many other people who are willing to be a part of this, and there's awareness and there's cooperation. Conor, what was your most notable memory?
Sorry, my internet cut out. What my most memorable memory from Project Planet A? Okay. I think right after we finished the first round of our applications, we had a whole bunch of people come join, and it was just great to see that there are so many young people around the world that are interested in just helping out with this climate effort, and just to see everyone unite and work hard, and work for free because we're all volunteering. That's just really something special to me.
Yeah, absolutely. So now as we start closing up things, thank you so much for the work that you do. And there are a lot of organizations doing all kinds of work, but I think climate change and any kind of environment advocacy requires equal attention as compared to, poverty alleviating or just donating food or any kind of those kinds of things. And as Autumn said before, that it has to be a youth-led initiative because we are going to face consequences later in the future if things are, unchecked. And we are beginning to see effects as well as we live through it. So thank you so much for all the work that you do. And it's been an absolute pleasure talking to all of you. Keep up all the good work and we will see you again.
Thank you so much. Good to be here.
Thank you. Thank you.